welcome to the Layer5 community meeting. Today is October 1st, 2021, which means it's the first day of Hacktoberfest. So Layer5 has been actively participating in Hacktoberfest in the previous years as well. So I guess we will look into more about that as well. And we also have a lot of newcomers joining us this week. And we had two people introduce themselves. So if there is anyone else who is new on this call, please introduce yourself. I don't think there is, but in case I missed someone.
Yeah. Hello everyone, my name is Siddhant. I am currently pursuing my undergraduate engineering from Manipal University, Jaipur. I am currently in second year and I currently do front-end development mostly, like I am proficient in React, JavaScript, and also I'm getting my hand polished on back-end development like Node.js, Mongo. I know them, but I haven't made any projects on them for now. So I'm getting my hands polished on them. So yeah, looking forward to work in the future and learn a lot from here.
Thank you, Siddhant. Welcome to the community.
Thank you.
All right. So we have a couple of announcements before we jump to the topics for today. So Aditya, would you like to talk about the Hacktoberfest initiatives?
Yeah, sure. Could you just open the link? Yeah. So hi guys, as we step into October, the Hacktoberfest has started beginning from today. So the main announcement about that is if you guys just create PRs and then write a comment that you wanted to be tagged as a Hacktoberfest, like as a Hacktoberfest PR, we'll put a label on it. Or if you can put a label on it by yourself, like if you have the access to, please feel free to do that. Yeah, so that's basically it, because I have been receiving a lot of DMs. So please just comment down there, it'll be much more helpful. And yeah, that's about it, I guess. Let's see a lot of PRs come in. Hopefully a lot of people will contribute more actively. Yeah, that's it.
I think like we can make it repo-wide by adding the Hacktoberfest label in the repo. I think like that should also accept all PRs as Hacktoberfest PRs, I guess.
Like I think there's some issue this time. I'm not sure if the PRs are not labeled, they are not showing up on the dashboard, like in the Hacktoberfest dashboard. So yeah.
And the label is Hacktoberfest, right? Okay.
Yeah. And last year, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. One more thing, that when the PR is accepted, one label should also be added, like Hacktoberfest accepted. Only then I think the Hacktoberfest will go correct.
No, that's like it's written in the rules, but that's not how it's working, because I have had a Hacktoberfest PR merge today, so it gets automatically updated. There's a Hacktoberfest accepted label in the Meshery IO repo, but I don't think we need that. Like one label is sufficient enough. So if it's labeled as Hacktoberfest, it'll get accepted.
Cool. Yeah, that's actually a great thing that you guys are reviewing like this year's participation rules, because this will be our third year participating in Hacktoberfest. And yeah, the rules kind of, I think they update them from year to year. And so to be clear, of an individual that's on the call that has read this year's rules, like specifically, what is that? Is it it's a label on a PR and it needs to say Hacktoberfest or some variation of Hacktoberfest?
So the rules say that after the PR has been accepted, we have to put on a label that says Hacktoberfest accepted. But I did not put a Hacktoberfest accepted label today, and my PR got accepted already. So just the Hacktoberfest label should do. Like we don't need two separate labels for it.
Okay, in a project that is participating in a Hacktoberfest, and in order for us to participate this year, that's just by putting the Hacktoberfest label on things, right? There's no
putting the Hacktoberfest label on the repo topics.
Yeah, well, it's just that, yeah, I mean, it would be good if somebody read it a little bit further, because it says submitted to any opted-in repository. What is opted in?
Opted in means having this topic in repo.
Cool. And then you read that from this year's rules?
Yep.
Cool.
So,
okay.
yeah.
We're all good to go. Great. So by the way, I would submit to you all that there's a couple of things that should be done. One is what Aditya already did, which is update the Layer5 IO website to help show the fact that we're participating, that we welcome newcomers and those that participate in this activity, that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of issues that I know of, and probably 100 that many of you know of, that are not listed as issues. I mean, there's a lot of issues that actually fall into this category of a category of well-aligned Hacktoberfest issues, ones that are, clearly defined, don't require that you have been participating to the project previously. There's hundreds of those. We don't have those all in issues though. So there are a lot of issues to go create. We might want to have a short verbal session to walk through what a number of those are, just capturing them very quickly in a spreadsheet or something. And then I know Anshu and Aditya are here, just trying to help in that regard. And actually any of you, whether you're, even if you're just participating in Hacktoberfest, like, you're welcome to help in that regard as well. There's a long list. I can talk to you for an hour straight on like all these things to do. So there's no reason that we wouldn't be able to uplift and encourage a bunch of people to come and contribute. That's one thing. Yeah, the other thing is I would suggest that, like, it doesn't hurt any PR that goes in this month. It doesn't hurt to just label it with Hacktoberfest. If that individual isn't participating in Hacktoberfest, they won't get an email and they won't sign up and they won't, there's no harm there. If they are, good, then they're taken care of. But the back and forth with comments and things, probably not necessary. This page, so Aditya, if you go to the top, so you're listing the tutorials retroactively then, I get it. Because last year we held once a week on the newcomers call, on the Thursday call, we held tutorials. And well, that's great, and there's a list of them here. Also potentially something that we might want to consider doing. Maybe an intro to Meshery. I don't know, maybe an intro to, there's a lot of things that go on. Intro to GitHub workflows, GitHub Actions. How many have we written in this community now? Is it 3? Is it 4? We've written 4 actions. Some of the maintainers are saying, I don't believe you, Lee. I know of 2, but not the other 2. Oh, you'll have to trust me. I'll point them out. There's 4 of them. But we do a lot of workflows as well. Like there's I think to what Aditya had written here, and maybe what Navendu had been espousing, is that there's a lot to do in the community that isn't the code. Actually, this page itself had to be created. The form there that gets is created, but when people submit it, hey, what are we going to do about that? If people are requesting a particular tutorial, like maybe we should go tweet that out, by the way, and ask people to fill it in, and that would influence maybe a schedule of tutorials that we might hold. And by we, I mean any of you, if you're comfortable to teach out, to share with others what you know, you're welcome to host a session. It doesn't have to be an hour long, could be 20 minutes, doesn't have to be overly formal. There's slide templates that you can use. We'll record it, get it up, we'll tweet about it. yeah, anyway, it's a great excuse this month to go be social, which is nice. There are a few of you here who may not have much luxury in participating in Hacktoberfest. You're sort of like engaging some of those folks because we're those that are committed to Meshery specifically. Some of you are under the gun on the .6 release. So that means that it will be important for newcomers like Manav to receive others, like to immediately turn around and receive others. So that's good. Anyway, Anshu had raised his hand. I'm not sure if it's Anshu or Anshuman on the call, but Amino 19. And so he's here to help, and he has been helping and has been creating a lot of good first issues. So we should do more of that. Okay, anyway, I'll stop, but like, you know, what a great event. What a good way to get some fresh blood in and a good way to help others.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that we have different organizations that are in the Layer5 community. So if you go to the Hacktoberfest page, there are links to beginner-friendly issues and help-wanted issues across all these organizations. So you can check that out as well. And since there are a lot of maintainers here, like this year, maintainers can also participate in Hacktoberfest. So it would depend that basically you have to approve PRs, Hacktoberfest approved PRs, and that would go on and add to your tally, I guess. And yeah, so basically maintainers can also participate. All right. Another announcement is on Kubecon. So Meshery and Service Mesh Performance are two projects that came out of the Layer5 community, both of which are now CNCF projects. So we will be having project office hours and project showcases at this year's Kubecon plus Cloud Native Con. So it's in 2 weeks. So we have. So yeah, basically we have some opportunities available. Would you like to talk about it this a bit?
Yeah, it's just a quick it's just a quick call for anyone that's here and is interested in doing things around a KubeCon. Drop your name into, you know, drop a note in Slack. Please don't do it privately, but drop a note in Slack or drop your name here. But there's a lot of stuff for us to do, and so you're all welcome to go represent. Again, like whether you're contributing code or not, that's not the. I feel like I just have to repeat that every so often. So yeah, so good. So there aren't detail like I promise that we'll send out details of what those specific opportunities are. But just in general, if you think you're going to be around and want to, you know, hang out and be affiliated with the project or tell people about their projects at KubeCon, raise your hand.
Thank you, Lee. So with that, let's get on to the topics for today. As Lee mentioned, we have a Meshery v0.6 release coming up. So we just wanted to get some status on where we are to the release. So Meghna, like, could you give an update on the blog post status, like how many posts have been completed and what still remains?
Yes, sure. So the update is pretty much what was. So we need people in for the sorry, 1 second. The filters, applications, and dynamic management UI. So in those areas, we need people in to write blog posts. And there are few issues that require some review. If you go to the main, the first release talk. The epic, yeah. So here we need people in for application filters and dynamic management UI. And Navindu has written those articles which we need review on. And yeah, the update so far. Zain, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I think that's it with the updates. Yes.
Great. Just to repeat this really quick. So we got a big release of Meshery coming up. We're going to announce that, concurrently with Kubecon. And there's a lot of features that have come in, a lot of changes that have happened since the last release. And so this is a call for people to write about those. This writing can be inside of Meshery docs, can be in blog posts, either your own on a different venue or on meshery.io or on layer5.io. And so that's great. So this is a great example of a non-code contribution. Do any of you, or I'm sorry, there have been a few of these that have been written. Are there any, Meghna and Zain, that you're aware of that are ready for review?
The ones that I'm asked, review needed, those
Gotcha.
are those three. And I think one of the Sakshis or Bami's one is also done. I commented there. Navindu was going to, I asked Navindu if he could, review that one. So there are like 4 articles that are ready, which need to be reviewed. And yeah, I think that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just by the way, on that subject, by the way, just like actually this right here, if you all are seeing the Layer5 IO site, there have been over a couple hundred people that have contributed to the site, which is fantastic. The main banner on the main page, when you go to layer5.io, that banner, it'll actually rotate. There's 2 different banners. So if you refresh, it should go back to the other one. They're pretty similar. They basically say the same thing. It's just 2 different graphics. I've been told by one of our collaborating partners by HPE that there've been a few HPE visitors that will come to the site and they're super lazy about, I think, visiting the site. Their feedback was they didn't know that Meshery was a project, like the main project that we focus on. They didn't know that it was here. And it's like, well, okay. And so the feedback, and so one of the things as we go to invite more users to try out Meshery, I guess there's 3. That's great. Is that one of these, and maybe the default one should be something about Meshery, something about something, a little animated GIF, a small video, something. And so just another opportunity for those that are either into Adobe Illustrator, into Figma, into Adobe After Effects, particularly if you're into After Effects or Premiere. There's a real need to explain some of the features in Meshery. And so one of the contributors to Nuj Agrawal had shown some of the video that he was working on, like a highlight reel of some of Meshery's features. And so anyway, just a quick note on that. But yeah, back to you, Navindu.
Yes, we also have a couple of pending features. So one of the most needed changes to switch to Helm charts in Meshery CTL. So switch from Kubernetes manifest file to Helm charts. So Darren was working on this, and he mentioned that there are some issues with the Helm chart. So maybe Darren, if you could talk about it here. Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, I need to apologize. I didn't really have, like a lot of time working on this, but in my limited time, I did manage to update the matrix CTL to use the Helm charts, but then I found out there are still some issues in the Helm charts that preventing me from managing the resources via the UI. Can I share my screen so that I can better
Yep.
show what the arrows are?
Yep. Take it away.
So yeah, so here we are looking at the UI, and then I deploy this using the Helm chart, which is the same process as my local mastery CTL. And then I try to take the NSM as an example. I try to install the NSM into my cluster, but then I was hitting errors that due to the RBAC permission thing. So I believe this is due to some relevant, issues in the Helm charts that we didn't really fix. So it doesn't really allow me to do anything to the cluster because, the permission that I'm having is forbidden. So yeah, this is the issue that I found.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Darren,
Yeah.
briefly, do you? It's possible that. Well, maybe you just said this, man. So I apologize if that's the case, but yeah, it's possible that this glitch is network service meshes issue, like their Helm chart has a snafu.
I also tried some of the others, and then it seems like the service account the service account field that we have in the Helm chart are also not correct, because I was seeing other errors other than this one, and then I fixed that for the NSM, and then the service account error went away, and then this RBAC error came up. So yeah, but I didn't really have time to dive deep into fixing this RBAC thing. And then for other charts, say the console, well, I was hitting some other errors, that I didn't really have enough information to debug the Helm chart. So yeah, it seems like to me fixing the Helm chart, it might take more time than migrating from the manifest to the to use Helm chart, because I did that like fairly quick, in terms of the code changes for using the matchkit API. Well, it's kind of like API, but it's a function. I didn't know where it is, but what I wanted to say is that the changes that required to use the Helm chart wasn't that complicated. It just, because here we are just pulling all the manifests, and then in my local testing, I just comment, all of them out, and then use one simple function to replace it, and then just one simple command, mastery system start, and then we have the entire system. But then the main thing is that I'm hitting like all these errors here in the Helm charts that I think it's going to require a certain amount of time to go through all the adapters, and then to figure out like what's wrong with the Helm chart, and then so that I can proceed. So
yeah, Darren, yeah, we were having, and we I guess still are having, there's this service account issue that you're pointing out that like,
yeah,
it's something between a hyphenation or like smashing the words together.
Yeah, because in the current Helm chart, I know that we have service account for each adapter, but in the manifest, it's not the case. That's what I discovered. So let's say right now we have service account. Well, I changed the NSM because that's what I saw the manifest the NSM is using the Mesh server. I guess like all the adapters, they are using the Mesh server as the service account so that they have the permission to do certain operations. But in the Helm chart right now, we have, you know, the service account for each adapters, which is the reason why, or one of the reasons why I was not able to do the operations via the UI. So I need to fix, you know, these for the rest of the Helm charts. So I fixed the one for the NSM. That's why I was able to do something, but the RBAC thing is still preventing me from installing the resources into the cluster. That's the part that I need to figure out.
Yeah. By the way, we will be doing a couple of lead candidates. So, and there was a collection of us that were, I think, talking yesterday about, or the day before, about like whether or not it was the right thing to do to try to get the Helm charts into this release. And the consensus ended up being that like, we only expect to have more users come KubeCon and come, you know, and so like ripping the Band-Aid off now is sort of what it came to. And so, yeah. So yeah, this is great. It's very encouraging to see that you're on the case. And by the way, I know that you've interacted with Husaina before, and with Piyush and a bunch of other people, but Husaina and Piyush are two of the individuals who are, and Navendu maybe like have been consistently the most dedicated toward that component, Mesh CTL. So, you know. Yeah, just in case collaboration is helpful.
Yeah, thank you for the pointers, Lee.
Lee and others, you hear me? Yes, hi. It's Michael here. When I was testing recently, I had the same or a similar sort of service account issue when I was installing Istio. Using so the adapter which is using Istio CTL, and so what I did was then just to create a what they called role binding, binding this system service accounts measure to cluster admin. But I wonder what is sort of what is the approach that we should implement, or that has been discussed. You know, should the user of Measury actually set up the access so that Measury can gets the necessary access, or is that included somewhere, and Measury control or the manifest would create the correct role bindings as well?
The latter, ideally the latter. Yeah.
So I didn't really understand why it didn't work. Because I think I was testing it a couple of days or a week or two earlier, installing Istio, and I didn't have to do anything, and I didn't have a role binding from before, and I was using Minikube as well. But I can't be sure, right, whether there was anything different. So I wonder what sort of.
There has been activity on the Helm charts in the last couple of weeks, so there certainly were changes, and Darren can attest to that. I've proven to be something of an ignoramus here, or like from my part personally, I haven't spent a ton of time with Helm. It is the goal that like ideally, you know, that ideally the Helm charts deployments are configurable, that people might opt to that they can deploy components of Measury a la carte, but that, there would be a single service account to rule them all, that all of them would use. And ideally the namespace, the service account, the custom resource definitions, the custom resources themselves, like that all of that's captured in the charts. So there will be one chart per component. I don't know that any of this is written down necessarily, like, but this doesn't, unless I'm misunderstanding the ecosystem around Helm and Helm charts, this approach doesn't deviate or is aligned with, it's consistent with other installs. Top level chart, subcharts individually, we're automatically building the charts with each release. We're not bothering with the individual versioning of Helm charts separate from the Meshery release version itself. Like we could have built in intelligence that says, don't rev the version number of the charts. Like they carry their own life cycle and lifespan. It's like, look, we went through that. I think with Rudolfo was there. We kind of went through, like, it's just like, why? Like version numbers are cheap. Let's just keep it consistent with the Meshery server. And so that's the current process. The source chart, the sources to the charts are in the Meshery repo. They are published, when they're built and published, they're hosted over HTTP on the meshery.io repo, meshery.io/charts, I think. And then they are also listed in artifacthub.io, which, by the way, I think we have an F out there, an F rating in terms of security. That might have improved recently as Rudrox took us from a Ubuntu base image to something much, much smaller, to an Alpine. And so maybe we have a D now, I don't know. But therein lie the extent of my, yeah. But okay, and so why the push toward Helm is like a couple of reasons. One, we're killing ourselves with trying to bend over backwards to support all the ways to install Meshery and all the platforms to install it on. There's a lot of upkeep. We get bugs in this one, bugs in that one. We want to try to focus it on one. Helm is the tool that we're using most ubiquitously for installing the service meshes themselves. Hopefully at some point, the words out of my mouth would be different. I would be saying we have a competency with Helm. So that would be great. But then also there's this matter of dependencies when you deploy like Meshery and its operator and the rest of its components. Bringing these up in sequential order can be helpful and can be something that Helm facilitates. But cool.
I have one question, Lee. So while we are migrating from the plain manifest to use Helm charts, we are still going to support the plain manifest way of installing the system, right? Are we?
That's a great question. Yeah, I see. I'm a weak individual in this regard. Like it's really tough to tell a user no, although there's a lot of importance to having that strength. Sometimes you'll lose a user because they're like, look, but that's what we use. So we don't use Helm. We don't like it. We don't, whatever the reason, right? They want to use. And, but you might lose a user, but you're able to be more efficient and have higher quality software if you're, so the goal is to not support those manifests like that. We were just talking on Wednesday. It's a great example, Darren. And Michael is involved in this as well. There's a Docker captain, his name's Luke Juggery. He's French, for whatever that matters. Just so you guys get to know him, he's a real nice guy. He had made an installer using Ubuntu Canonical's multipass. So he made a VM-based, VM-centric installer so that you can quickly spin up a VM and spin up Kubernetes and spin up Meshery. And the question to the community was, like on the surface of it, it's like, well, that's fantastic. Like, that's great. There's been users who've asked for that kind of a thing. Like they didn't want to bring their own Kubernetes. They wanted Meshery to bring their Kubernetes. And yet on the flip side, no feature is for free. And so there will be bugs in the script that he has, and then there will be ongoing sustaining of that. And so the question was like, gosh, how do we uplift and embrace what he's done, but also signal to the community that like, like maybe you'll get some help, use it at your own risk. And so the manifests, if those were kept around and literally not deleted from the repo, there's a designation that I think that it would be helpful for all of us to think about, a designation where we can embrace the multipass installer, where we can potentially continue to embrace the Kubernetes manifests, but also be clear with the users that like maybe what we do is we don't publish these installation methods on meshery.io as like a prominent getting started path. But for those that ask and have a need and are invested in these alternative installation methods, maybe we would keep the manifests around for them.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know. See right there, see that's what I was saying is like, that's a kind of a weak answer, right? Like we
Yeah, one thing that I have seen, in the industry that people do is that for the customer resources, they do the playing manifest. It's okay to do that. And then the way to do it is they basically make a folder called, samples that showcase, how we can install the customer resources into the cluster. And then the way that they do, they just use the playing manifest that, as we use in the in the Meshery CTL. But in terms of the installation of the entire system, I barely see people use playing manifest, to be honest. Like I think like 90% of all the cloud native projects, they use Helm charts, and then probably the rest of them they use other ways, but not too many projects use playing manifests. But
so that falls in line with the thinking, and that's good. Yeah, there's a couple of projects even in the service mesh space that these projects have been really late coming and providing a Helm chart, or they had a Helm chart, tried to be rid of it and just use the project's CLI to install it, and they were met with complaints. And so to your point, yeah, Helm has become as a matter of fact, the NSM project here, this network service, they didn't have a Helm chart until we were pushing on them to create one.
Oh, I see.
That's really curious. Dan Feldman had updated Spire. Yep. So by the way, these all the service meshes out there, actually, this is one of the more friendly toward Meshery.
You mean the NSM?
Yeah, the the maintainers and yeah.
But they haven't really updated. Well, as far as I know, I don't think NSM is a really active project, because I think they have been stuck at the incubation phase for a couple of years now.
Yeah,
so
that's about they're in sandbox. And
sandbox. My bad.
But yeah, no, but to your point, like it didn't really matter. I mean, to your point, they've been in the same phase for a little while. Yeah, they had slowed on their releases. Like the last release date, that's a long time ago.
2019.
I don't know. I talked to those maintainers with some regularity. Actually, so Nikolov, he has since transitioned 2 jobs in that time since that release is done. So he actually went to. Yeah, yeah. To your point, like it's alive. There's still the maintainers are still there. I still see activity in their channel. But I don't, yeah. To digress into this fully, I'll say that one of the concepts that they've discussed is a storage service mesh. And so I don't know that they aren't, I think some of the individuals that were on it are great incubators and perhaps didn't find individuals with a sustaining focus. So I don't know. I don't want to. Just, you know. I'll also, I don't know. This is the network engineers service mesh for sure. Like I hate to, like, I don't say this that often because I don't consider it true that often, but Ed Dreiss, I just invited him to be a co-chair with me on CNCF's technical advisory group and I think his IQ is higher than mine. So
yeah, he's a pretty smart man. Yeah, I think I've talked to him like once, at Cisco, and then yeah, he's a smart man.
So the reason I was saying that is that I forget what I was going to. Oh, is that having said that, I would say that the NSM architecture is like entirely unimpressive to me. It's entirely ass backwards of service provider centric orchestration. It's like it's just tiresome to look at. It's great. The performance is fantastic, but it's a different breed entirely.
All right,
Nice.
so going back to this like pending feature, I think I still need some time diving deep into the permission thing so that I can fix hopefully this time I can fix all the issues in the Helm charts, because there are a lot of them, a lot of subcharts that you cannot, it's really like a lot to fix if you try to fix like all of them in at once. But yeah, I will try to look into the permission thing.
If you have a PR or a branch up, that'll help facilitate others getting in and
yeah, I can push what I have, by the end of today to the repo just as a draft, and then maybe we can have some conversations there, and then to make it a little bit faster.
Nice. Thank you.
All right, I will stop sharing now.
Related to that, for V06, we were planning to switch the default platform to Kubernetes. So if we are going ahead with the release now, like, should we switch the platform before we merge the Helm chart sphere? Anyone else has opinions on it?
So the default platform is independent to the Helm charts, right? As far as I know. Because it doesn't really matter the order of merging, two potential PRs for the two pending features, I guess. Well,
right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. In that vein, you're right. They don't need to be coordinated.
Okay.
All right. Utkarsh or Abhi, would you like to update on the
Utkarsh's machine is down at the moment, and so maybe we should move on to a couple of other things outside of the .6 release.
Yep. Ashish, would you like to provide an update on the seed content?
So I'm sharing my screen. Wait a minute, I'm just setting a few things up in the machine. So okay. Just give me 2 seconds.
Should we come back to you?
Okay, I'm sharing right now. Okay. So I hope my screen is visible. So currently we have
I mean, currently we don't seed any applications inside of the for the local provider. So if you open this, if you hit this endpoint, you'll get no applications there. This is after the PR. So what my PR will change is will have few applications seeded inside of Meshery, but they would be seeded depending upon if that application can currently be handled by an adapter or Kubernetes. For example, right now I have 3 applications inside of my seed content. One of them can be handled by Istio. The other one is Meshery native. It's a part of the core component, and this one is this Kubernetes native. So its type is service.k8s. So as when the Meshery server starts up, it registers its local capability. So we can only support this one. And when the Meshery server starts up, whenever a Kubernetes context gets connected, then that Kubernetes API server also registers its own capabilities. So after I started the server, I can see here only the Meshery native component, only the application that can be handled by Meshery. Now, if I go ahead and basically start an adapter, whenever an adapter starts, it also registers its own capabilities. So if I start the Istio adapter, it will tell the Meshery server that, hey, I can handle I can handle few applications as well. So I'll just wait for it. Okay, so so it should be actually a lot of, okay. So now if I reload this page, yeah, so now I can see the application that can be handled by Istio, and after the and still the Kubernetes components haven't been registered. As soon as the Kubernetes components get registered, I will be able to see the service pattern, this application as well here, and it's taking a little time because my RAM is kind of bogged up. So yeah, that's the update on my side. So for that, I have added one more field inside, one more column inside of the application struct, which actually stores the hash. So what happens is that every time a component gets registered, the logic works in a way that it will go inside this folder, iterate over all of the applications, and the applications that haven't been seeded, and it will check using a SHA, that is a new field inside of the application struct. And the application that have not been seeded, it will use the 3 existing stages to check if that application can be supported at this moment in time. If yes, then it will be displayed. It will be pushed onto the database, and we would be able to see it here. Still, the Kubernetes components haven't been registered. So if I reload the page, maybe actually that's the issue. It takes sometimes a little too much time. So if I reload it, so basically, yeah, that was the update from my side. So if anyone has any feedback on it.
There's a logical diagram that might help some of you kind of digest and grok the inner workings of what's happening here. I'll share a link to that so you can take a look. But just logically and functionally, Meshery lets people apply patterns, like deploy patterns to Kubernetes. And it lets you deploy applications and WebAssembly filters. Having that raw capability is great. But when a user comes to Meshery and it's just empty fields, like there's no example applications or example filters, patterns, they're kind of lost. Like they don't know how to get started. And so this seed content is to do just that. So that's the purpose of it. The inner workings of how this is going on, I'll drop a link just so that people can digest in case you have feedback.
We are also adding this seed content in the remote provider as well. I think we haven't started working on it, so Rudraksh, like you can correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, we would be adding a similar seed content in a remote provider as well.
Yeah, we'd be just adding it to the database, and then when people would be signing in with the remote provider, it would be fetched.
So I guess we'll be adding it soon. All right. Thank you, Rudraksh. Thank you, Ashish. Next up, Michael, would you like to give a feedback on the Mesh Map Alpha program? Just to give a quick context to others, Mesh Map is a new feature that we will be supporting in Meshery, and I guess we will be talking about it at Kubecon. So Mesh Map had an alpha program, and Michael was one of the first people to sign up for it. So yes, over to you, Michael.
Michael, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
That was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, no, you know what? Let
me suddenly.
Michael, let me say a couple of things in case you, or do you feel comfortable speaking to this? If not, I was just going to kind of regurgitate some of the things that you had said.
No, I can, please go ahead, and then I can sort of complement, if that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So for those that have signed into Meshery, you'll notice that it'll ask you to sign in. Just that, like you start Meshery and then it says authenticate. And right now there are two active choices between two different kinds of providers, is what we call these, the entities that you can sign into. So Meshery has a built-in provider. It goes by two different names. They're both synonymous, they mean the same thing. In the UI, there's a provider in the drop-down list that says none, that just means use the internal Meshery provider. We also refer to it as the local provider. It's the same thing. There's an extension point where you can plug in other providers, remote providers. There potentially are any number of remote providers. There have been more than one in the past. Some of them are disabled, when you'll see in the dropdown. The one that's standing there today, it's called Meshery, or also is synonymous with Meshery Cloud. Providers can do a lot of different things. Meshery is an extensible platform. I will also send a picture of what the extensible platform looks like. As a matter of fact, I'll do it now. I'm not going to digress too much. So suffice to say, there's a Meshery has extension points, and you can drop in custom code. You can plug in code to augment the behavior of Meshery. And so there's a large collection of you that have both worked on Meshery Cloud as a remote provider, and also worked on one extension specifically called Mesh Map. It's a visual topology. And so Mesh Map is somewhere between alpha and beta. And we've been inviting, Michael in this case as a maintainer of Meshery, and someone who gives great feedback and is thoughtful with it, and has some amount of patience and all that. And so he'd gone in and given it a whirl. Michael, with that, I'll try to bring it up as a backdrop, but yeah, if you have other things. So one of the things that Michael had said, yeah, go ahead, Michael.
No, just go ahead. I was just trying to start it locally again, but I can't. It doesn't really work. But that's alpha for you.
Yeah. wait. And say more. Is it that you don't see this this link?
No, actually, I saw it now, and I also saw that you had updated the login screen where you can choose one of the identity providers. But now when I click on mesh map, the icon is not there, and then it says unknown error 404 not found. When I click on mesh map, I'm not quite sure what it, where it originates. I mean, this problem. I switched context from testing for V060 with a stable to mesh map context, which in general works really nicely as part of the V06 test, switching context and stuff. It's good. So testing, but something went wrong. So where it is,
I don't know that. Someone else can maybe correct me. I'm not sure that if you're running an edge release, I'm not sure what mesh map is going to do, or if it'll be successful.
No, actually, I think it wasn't, because I think I was testing a couple of days ago. So it has to be, as you said, the stable latest. And I haven't checked what happens when you switch context. It's interesting. When I was testing a couple of days ago, it looked
a lot better.
Yeah. No, it looks a lot better now.
Okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, we've been.
So maybe I've updated. So
yeah.
So this works fine. I mean, I have to say, I think it's really impressive. So I'm, looking forward to the next versions of the mesh map. It's really good. This visual representation, and it's really very nice. And being able to do what you've been doing now, like opening interactive shell, which I could open it, but it wasn't interactive. At least one where I thought it should be interactive, like HTTP, where I know there's something. So that didn't work. And there were a couple of other things that sort of like, last time I checked, like I did not get the labels of to all these icons. So that was a bit weird. And when filtering, say, on namespace, what was the behavior was that I guess the pods that were in this namespace, a bit like you're showing now, right? That the pods that were in a specific namespace, they got the labels, but the ones that were not removed, possibly. So, and but it's
yeah, that's interesting.
That's very nice. Yeah, and I wondered also, is there I seem to have sort of issues sometimes with Firefox. Is it sort of like Firefox Chrome thingy?
For sure, there are issues with Safari and mesh map right now, and Chrome is the most supported experience, I guess, is the way at the moment.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But that's not the goal. But
no, but it's good to know, sort of, that you say, okay, then we. Of course, it's what I'm saying now is far too vague for you to be able to do something about it. So it should be more specific.
But you're right that this interactive terminal is currently dysfunctional. So if you're trying to, so users, and actually the UX here is like the way that you can establish an interactive terminal session, which is what this is. And I'm, conceptually sending commands and receiving output. Right now I'm able to send commands, but not receive the output. So that's broken. You're able to then in the same window, switch to your your sessions that are just doing logging. And for my part, I think that the UX is really super confusing. Like the only thing that isn't confusing is the fact that you're seeing logs, but the rest of it is needs some love. the fact that you can switch between logs and terminals. Anyway, there's a couple of contributors, Dhruv Patel in specific, who is on the job on cranking through the interactive terminal. It's all really good feedback. Actually, there's one of your pieces of feedback. What time is it? Yeah, we're just a few minutes after. It was that, like, as you're working on, as you're designing something, and you're in here and you're really getting into the thick of, like, configuring this stuff, that I think part of the feedback was, like, the font might not be quite large enough. Like if I zoom back to 100, normal font size, it's like, yeah, granted, you could do some things to zoom in like that, but there's but that was great feedback, because one, this thing is just too small in general. It needs to be bigger. Like this stuff, these things go deep. Like you can really, and so there's just better information architecture that needs to happen so that people can nav. But yeah, no, there's a collection of folks who've been hard at work for a long time. My sense is that they're proud of what they've done, and if not, then, like, I've got nothing for them. It's really cool.
Just don't get me wrong. I think it's really impressive, and despite all sort of the things you're saying is a bit confusing now, and I said, I didn't quite understand. This is sort of, this is just how it is. There's no. This is when you start doing something like this, and I can appreciate the complexity behind something like this, and the communication between, how the information is sent from somewhere to the UI or pulled, and
yeah.
So it's not trivial, I'm sure.
There's a couple. So yeah. Thank goodness it's not just me trying to do it, because we wouldn't have. So since we're talking about this, there are Michael's feedback is spot on, and even the stuff that he thinks is vague is good enough. Is like, hey, you're not paying attention to Firefox, and like if you go use Firefox, it'll be evident what's broken like that. But so for a couple of others, or there's a sign-up sheet rather that Aditya Chatterjee might share for others that might be interested in poking around. There are bugs, so if you do want to play with it, please be aware. You have to bring your patience with you. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't complain. As a matter of fact, please get, like that's the point. Please complain about it. Please point out issues.
I think one thing which could be really useful is how can you reset the local experience so that maybe some cache somewhere or something in the browser is messing up things. How can you reset the whole experience or the whole testing? Because sometimes it's difficult to see, is it sort of like the local environment that is sort of like messed up a bit, or is it something else? How can I reset it and start completely from scratch? That might be useful.
Yeah, totally. It had been previously. It had been pretty confusing. That wouldn't, and even now, it still needs more improvement. There are three things. I think there's a few things that go on. So one is if you're like, geez, I don't, you know what? Let me just stay inside of this one that I'm calling testing on Istio is maybe what I'm calling it. And like, I'm going to stay inside this mesh map, this design. I'll just, do what Michael just said. I'll just, start from scratch. That's one thing that's now, better facilitated for. Staying in the same design. Another thing that's better facilitated for is like, maybe this design is fine. Okay, that's all I wanted. I want to go ahead and start a new one. So let me initiate an untitled design, a new one. There's a bug right now where it's not, it is creating a new one, but it's leaving the old name. So that's about conceptually, that's how that should work. Another thing that should be happening is, well, that you can just rename the existing without creating a new design. You can just rename the existing one. Great. Another thing that to Michael's point, like if you're really in here and you're taking your time to design this out and get it, like you want certain guarantees about, you really want, in part what Michael was describing about versioning, like the ability, you want a virtual clipboard at minimum, a stack to like keep track of all of your changes and kind of go back in history. And right now there's a kind of poor man's version of this, which is, well, there was an undo button. Like there's a couple of different types of undos that need to happen. There's a global undo at the canvas level that needs to be tracked. And then there's a, and then there's a maybe undo just specific to that node, because maybe you were really deep in the configuration. Maybe you just want to affect just this. And so, yeah. Yeah. So, fair enough. So we, gosh, we're over time. Manav, oh, you know, one quick thing, guys. So on the S&P call, we've got pending Google's legal team and their review. We've got Jacob, who's last? Jacob Mamak will be presenting on the S&P call about Nighthawk. So we're going to be doing some C++ things in that load generator. And so just put that on your calendars. And it'll be a good session. He's a bit nervous, I think. So, which is good. Briefly, Manav, are you still here? And did you want to talk about this?
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Good. You're cleaning up Drew's work, like his. I'm joking. Actually, this was here. This has been here since the start of Mesh. Like it's pre-Dhruv, but Dhruv Patel had focused in this area. So it sounds like. So take it away. Like you're capturing the fact that there are undefined columns in the data and then handling that gracefully. Is that the gist of it?
Yep.
I took all the words out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like there was this issue with I just logged the files. There was an issue that the x coordinates were repeatedly adding up, so I moved it inside the if statement as well and added an additional check for length parameter. And then like filtered the data and then pushed it for loading on the charts.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's a really neat feature area for Meshery, but it's one that's had some bugs that have, yeah. Anyway, this is really great to see. What a great first contribution.
Thank you. I saw it. I joined the Slack and saw this first time and just thought that I could contribute to it.
Turns out you can, or you did. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Navendu, thanks for hosting us.
Yep. See you, everyone. See you next week.
Bye-bye. See you.
Yes.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.